All right, guys, welcome to the channel. Um, I just wanted to welcome you guys in. I'm going to go ahead and get started talking to this live, so you guys may hear this a little bit later. You can come back and watch the live later as you come on in, and if you feel free to follow the links in the description below. Once this live finishes, the links to the description will be in the description area below. I wanted to introduce Father X. Father X, I feel as though I found on YouTube, and he's been a huge leader in helping fathers all around the country get probably win their cases. And the best time to get involved is going to be probably right just before you're going through the fire of figuring this whole situation out. I want to introduce Father X. Father X is on the phone right now with us. Please say hello and introduce yourself if you'd like.
Good morning, Rocky. It's great to hear from you. I'm glad we got to touch base and talk over the past couple of days. You and I have been touching base on each other's channels for, I think, over a year now.
Yeah.
And I really respect what you do on your channel with the guys and all the conversations you have, because you focus on the emotional aspect, the emotional wear and tear that all of us fathers face in family court. I mean, it's really painful, and most people don't talk about it.
Right.
So I'm really glad you do. And it touched me a year ago when I was watching your videos and reading comments on your channel. And I mean, I get it. I mean, we've all been through it, so I totally get it. I appreciate you talking about it out loud.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. I appreciate it. And so if you're just starting right now watching this video and this live, I want to share with you, it's just the beginning. Although for myself and for Father X, this has been going on for many years. But I think I speak for both of us. We don't want other fathers and mothers. In some states, this is happening to moms as well too. So we're not we're a little bit gender biased, but we're not gender biased because we understand that it can happen to really anybody, both men and women, both fathers and mothers. But this is just the beginning of where I feel that many fathers are missing. It's really hard to say that those beginning times when you're really in the fire, you're going through it, you're in this cloud of just stress. Your world is being turned upside down. You're not really exactly sure where to go. Things aren't clear, and no one can say the right thing to you, even the people that you love and care the most. There's really no 100% direction to go when you're in the depth of the fire and just hurting and wanting to be with your child, wanting to be a father, wanting to be a good husband. And you feel like the rug has been pulled from under you. And we're starting this video, this live, just to kind of share some of the topics with you guys, and to that you guys have all experienced, that we've experienced, and we hear many stories of other guys and fathers, I should say, fathers and mothers experience, and to get something from this and to spread awareness. And it's not just for us to wrap around the conversation after the fact. It's to get the ball rolling for future things to happen, for future changes to happen in the area of fathers' rights, in the area of parental rights for all. And it starts with a conversation. It starts with information. It starts with people like myself and Father X that have been there. And so please take something from this video. And if you gather something, or maybe you feel as though someone can use this or it can be helpful, please share it. Share it with whoever you feel it could be helpful for, and share it with friends, families, and even out there into the internet. It would really be helpful. Anna Clara, hello. So Father X, I wanted to talk about a few things. Hey, Belili, the King, and I hope you guys are doing well. And Allison, thank you so much. We're glad that you guys are all here as well too. And yes, we do have children. Father X, I wanted to share some of the, I guess, at least 3 of the main important topics that all fathers experience after divorce, and mothers too. Again, we want to make sure is. Let's see here. Make sure that things are. Oh wow, it's moving pretty fast. Numbers are kind of going up really fast and then really low. So it's kind of new for me on my live. Some of the fathers and mothers, they deal with depression. I think it comes from that shell shock of just the rug being pulled from under them. And it could be called mental depression, physical. You go through a physical type of depression as well too. And
Yeah, that's right.
what are
Very
the
common.
what are some of the things that you experienced right at that beginning, those beginning stages, just on your own, if you can share?
Yeah, yeah. So let me step back and say, for those that don't know me, I'm Father X, and I have my own YouTube channel. And the reason I call myself Father X is because what happened to me happens to everybody, right? It's
Mhm.
I could be your uncle, your brother, your nephew, your coworker, your college roommate,
Mhm.
right? So I went through family court, and I've been raising my son ever since I got primary custody when he was 4 years old. And what I learned is that the family court system is completely broken, and I talk about exactly what makes it broken, exactly how it's broken, and the impact on people, and how you can overcome it. So when I went through it, my son's mother and I, we moved in together when she was pregnant. We had only been dating a short while, and we moved in together, and she assaulted me a couple of times, or once before childbirth. And she was arguing constantly, like she was borderline, as it turns out, bipolar or borderline. And I didn't know that until we started seeing a therapist around the time our son was born. And when our son was born, I was a stay-at-home dad because I had saved up enough money
Mhm.
to be a stay-at-home dad. And she was home from maternity leave, and then she went back to work. So I was a stay-at-home dad for like 9 months of my son's life. And during that time, she assaulted me multiple times. And so I was his caretaker. But she would have these explosions where she would run through the house with a knife in a fit of rage. And I was chasing after her to make sure she didn't get into our son's crib. Right? It was like that chaotic. And our couple counselors knew that she was the violent one. And that was the reality that we lived in.
Right.
And then bed that night. And I moved out the next day. And as soon as I moved out, she went to family court. She lied to them. She told them I was the perpetrator of domestic violence. And I saw how everybody in the legal system, from the police, the district attorneys, to the judges, everybody just bought her story, hook, line, and sinker, no questions asked.
Yeah.
Even when I made my own petition saying, in reality, she was a violent one. Here's all the time she assaulted me. Here's my police reports. And by the way, our couples counselors, our therapists, that we were trying to fix this problem with, they all knew she was violent, and they will tell you. But family court just ignored everything I said, and they gave her temporary custody. And I was only able to see my son Friday at 6 p.m. until Sunday at 3 p.m. every weekend, even though I was the one that raised him, even though I was the one that protected him from her crazy outbursts to make sure nothing happened to him. And so imagine that, right? Like
God.
all of these people enter your life all of a sudden, a bunch of lawyers and judges, and they're the most uninformed people in the room. They don't know anything.
They don't.
And they don't even try to learn anything. They don't actually ask questions to learn the facts. I saw the gender bias was real. The incompetence was real. The laziness was real. It was obvious to me that this whole thing just didn't work. It was not a process to figure out the best interest of the child. It was just a process to rubber stamp the mother for custody and then move on. Right? And I think that happens 85 to 90% of the time. It's not always the mother that gets primary custody, right? Some women are on the other end of this too, right? It happens.
Right.
But it's like 90% men that like don't get primary custody, right? Or 85%, something like that.
Yeah.
Is what the math tells us.
Exactly.
So in that environment, it took me 40 months to get custody of my son. And that was the first 15 months was just going to court and having these 10-minute sessions where nobody talks about anything except, hey, should we have a forensic evaluator? Let's come back next month and decide. And then next month it's like, yeah, we should have a forensic evaluator. Let's do that. Next month, why don't you guys all propose names? And then the month after that, we'll decide on who it is. And then it takes 4 months to do that process, right? Like these 10-minute administrative things for 15 months. And during that whole time, I couldn't see my son 5 days a week, even though I was his security blanket while we lived together. I was the one who made him stop crying, basically. I was the one who could hold him and have him stop crying. She couldn't do that because she was living in this, like, really, her entire universe in her brain was just chaos. And she couldn't soothe him. So every single night for 15 months, you know, and then after that, we had a trial that lasted until 40 months. She testified for like a year, and I testified for about a year. And when I testified, it was like 14 times spread across 12 months, and it was a total of 28 hours. That's how the calendar works. They don't have time. You know, like you testify in January or whatever, and then it's like, hey, we need more time. Okay, we don't have time until March 18. And then the next date is April 3. You know, so all of that 40-month period, the emotions were nuts. Like I'm sure you know all of them, Rocky, right? Like
it's just draining.
You'll go from sadness to depression, right? Frustration to anger, to rage, hopelessness, anxiety, stress. Every single day, I mean, I would feel all of that.
Right.
And I had to keep my job, and I raised my son on weekends, right? When he was with me, I had to turn all of that off and focus on playing with him. And then
still have to be Superman. Still have to be a father. Still have to show up to work every day. Still have to be 100%. Although your child, your heart and soul, your flesh is being pulled away from you. I'm so sorry.
Yes, and for no legitimate reason, right? So, what I try to teach guys on my channel is all about, like, when I was going through it, I didn't have any magic answers or solutions or how to overcome the court's gender bias and incompetence. And they were definitely not acting in the best interest of our son. They didn't even know how to think about that. So while I was going through it, I would spend every evening, imagine going to work 9 to 5, coming home at 6. And then from 6 p.m. until 11 p.m., all of those emotions that I just mentioned, plus the drive and desire to fix the situation, because it was unacceptable to me that my son could actually end up with his mother, who was bipolar and borderline and basically crazy and violent and abusive. So I had to figure out how to basically fight off the court system, how to cut my judge off at the knees.
Right.
So I had to study case law, appellate case law. I read psychological articles about borderline mothers and their impact on children, child development, articles on psychology so that I could become a better father, and prepare my testimony.
Good for you.
You know, my testimony was 28 hours. I mean, it was a lot. So, you know, I know all of those emotions really well. So when I hear them on your channel, from your audience, it always hits home. It's like I was there. I mean, I know it all. It's painful.
Yes. Yes, it's a cloud of pain. We don't know exactly how to deal with it. It's just a huge. We're one day fathers, husbands, or even, you know, a wife and a mother, and in this roller coaster of, it's okay, the divorce is coming, everything's going downhill in my family, and then suddenly, boom, this huge burst of new people in your life, a new way to communicate, new appointments, everything's new. Your whole life is flipped upside down with the your child being pulled away from you. I want to kind of touch a couple things on your story, and again, thank you for sharing this with us. I know there's so much more you can share with us, and just to kind of intercept again, Father X has a YouTube channel on YouTube. You guys can see his comment there. I will post the links in my community. also in the description of this video to his YouTube channel when this goes live, and you can go check out his channel. Please subscribe. It's an amazing. Give yourself time to sit and listen. It's an amazing amount of information that can help you. And if you've already gone all past the court system, if you're past it, and many of you guys on my channel are just starting out, so I highly recommend that you guys go to his channel, take some time and listen to the videos, watch a few of them. You're gonna get some information that can help you and feel more confident in walking into the courtroom. And if there's you can reach out to him on his channel as well too. That's what he's there for. He wants to help fathers. So with that said, I want to go back to real quick to some of the things that you said. Bipolar disorder. I think you said she had another type of disorder as well too, and borderline. It's really scary. Bipolar is one of them, but borderline is really, really scary because it's two totally different worlds. That's and they really detach themselves. They're really in the space of loving and caring and nurturing, and they completely detach themselves from that person, and they become completely what we view as psychotic. And it becomes psychotic. They really go to the ends of the earth of trying to take their lives or someone else's life. And I've heard this with other guys that I've communicated where they have some type of bipolar disorder, they're on medication, they have prior cases of violence against them, and the courts still lean their way. So we're not out of the woods when it comes to equal rights just because we've won a couple cases with fathers in some states. We're far from that. I mean, we're way, way behind. And I feel as though that's where we need to go towards, is that direction, and really trying to help out each and every state. So if you are in wherever state that you're at, you can go and look in and actually, Father X, if you can share the name of the organization, I think it's a Father's Right organization.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of activity going on across the nation in terms of getting equal custody laws passed, 50-50 laws. Mm-hmm. The National Parents Organization is a leader in that nationally, and they have chapters across the 50 states. So I would encourage you to go to the National Parents Organization's website. Just Google the name. I don't remember their URL. Mm-hmm. And it's very neutral. It's not like men only or women only. It's about the children. Right? Yeah. And pretty much everything I do on my channel is all about, let's figure out what's actually best for the child instead of just rubber stamping the mother for custody. Mm-hmm. And so the NPO does a good job. And then there's Americans for Equal Shared Parenting. Mark Ludwig, you might have seen him on YouTube. He didn't have custody of his son, and he's been fighting for equal shared parenting laws for many years now, maybe 5 to 7 years. And he recently got 50-50 legislation passed in Missouri, where he's from.
Oh, that's awesome.
Florida, Kentucky, maybe 5 to 10 states have now passed it.
Oh, wow.
Unfortunately, you have to do one state at a time, right? And there's 50 states. So, the National Parents Organization and Americans for Equal Shared Parenting are two organizations that I think do a pretty good job of working with legislators in the 50 states trying to get it passed.
That's awesome. And if you could put that in the description there, so guys and gals can actually see that. If you can type that in when you have a moment, the NPO and the other organization. There was something I was looking at recently. I was reading on some of the studies that we talked about fathers, just children in general. I do want to. I'm really happy, and this makes me really feel amazing. So I hope you don't mind, and you can share whatever you can share about this. But there's been some recent studies coming out. One of them I got this off of Google the other day, but then the other one, this one was from University of California, Riverside. They did a study about fathers and mothers and how there was just off the charts how children are actually so much more happier and successful as growing up in life and becoming better overall in life with fathers. Not to discredit mothers, we need each other. Okay, so we need mothers and fathers and good mothers and fathers. And I think by falling into this trap of what society wants us to do is like separating each other, constantly separating our genders, separating the family home, separating so much. But this constant separation is taking away from us being together and being good parents. Yeah, on this page here by University of California, Riverside, they talked about there was a gender significant, I'm just going to read this real quick if you don't mind, gender significant impact on the association between children's happiness. Men were happier while caring for their children, while women were less happier and more depressed. And there was 70% of those women that said they were actually more stressed out, and many of that stress led to depression. And where men were so much more happy. Exactly.
As a single parent?
As a single parent, yes. As a single parent. Okay. And then I also wanted to just share, if you don't mind, Father X, I'm really happy to hear that your child is doing really, really good as well too. And you should be really proud about that. You did really good. You raised a really good little human being.
Thank you. Thank you. He's awesome. I mean, I love him to death.
Yeah.
Since he was 4 years old, I had primary custody, and now he's going to one of the best high schools in our state on merit. So it's been a journey, and I worked my butt off to make it happen, and he worked his butt off to make it happen. I'll remember, Rocky, there was this time that I remember when he was like I think it was second grade or first grade. He had these math homework assignments in his school that was like, hey, here's 24 questions in math that you have to answer in 60 seconds. And at 60 seconds, you have to stop. And the questions are like 3 plus 3 equals, 4 plus 5 equals, 6 plus 9 equals, right? All those 24 questions like that.
Right.
And pretty much all the kids, nobody could get that. Nobody could do 24 in 60 seconds because they're all like in first grade.
Right.
But then throughout the school year, some kids would get it, and then they'd go up on a wall as having achieved that. And then my son achieved it. Maybe it was October or November of that school year. And I picked him up after school that day, and he was so happy. He just jumped on me. And he's like, thank you, Dad. Thank you, Dad. I got 24 out of 24 correct in 60 seconds. I did it. And they put my test on the wall, and I got it. Thank you, Dad. It's all the work you did with me. It's because you helped me do it, Dad. And I was floored. I mean, that he would say that. I didn't expect that. I just want to pick him up. That's cool, and that's what I get.
Yes, exactly.
Awesome.
That's the biggest reward, and those are the things that are really, I think that's missing. It's not spoken on television. It's not spoken in conversations. It's not studied. It's not looked at as much. You know, us as fathers, although we're men, we have the same joy and love and attachment that mothers have as well too, and we totally get it. We don't. I think I can speak for both of you. That's such a beautiful experience, and for many years, listening to kind of one-sided stories of, well, you know, mom loves him the most, and he loves mom the most, or she loves mom the most, or moms and moms and moms and moms. We've highlighted moms into this into the realm of parenting as being the light, the love, the patience, the understanding, the only reason why this child's life is getting to a better place. And that's just not the case. I think if you want equality, we have to look at the equality from both sides of the spectrum. I think that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. I wanted you to share that because that's a huge thing. It's really important. We share those joys and those passions of being good parents and with mothers as well too, just as much as mothers do. Um, one of the things I wanted to kind of go back, maybe I'm going a little all over the place. You talked about some of the feelings of obviously, stress, anxiety, depression. There was something that came up a couple times that I found. There was some of the fathers have developed a behavioral pattern called divorced dad syndrome or guilt dad syndrome. Yeah, and I found this and I looked it a little bit further, and there was a couple websites that came up about divorced dad syndrome or guilty dad syndrome. They were trying to make it as a syndrome, as though like, well, because of this experience, we're now, you have divorced dad syndrome, or you have guilt dad syndrome. Like, I'm feeling guilty because I'm not there with my child. I'm feeling guilty. I'm not able to protect or love or nurture my child. And I think that goes so much so for both men and women, of course, mothers and fathers, if we're in, depending on what side of the situation we're on. But these fathers were basically, they felt through the studies of these fathers, they found that there was a financial strain, there was problems dating, remarriage, keeping their jobs or job relocation, and any other family relationships had a hard strain on them. And I guess this was related to the guilty dad syndrome or divorced dad syndrome. Now, I think
is that a case where if the father does not have primary custody or 50-50 custody?
Exactly.
If he's like an alternate weekend dad,
exactly.
The outcome?
Exactly.
I believe that completely. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, I totally get that, because imagine your kid being taken away from you involuntarily, and you're qualified to be a parent, and yet you get screwed over. Like, how do you live knowing that your kid is somewhere else and you can't take care of them? You're not allowed to. I mean, it's emotionally destructive.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. Yes.
So I'm not surprised you would have that repercussion. And what you were saying before, Rocky, about the outcomes of children, you said children were happier if there was a single dad. There's a psychologist or researcher named Brooks McKenzie out of Texas.
Yes, please tell us.
Who speaks a lot about this. Yeah, he's they basically measure children's outcomes as, think about like the negative outcomes. Does a child suffer from depression? Does a child have poor academic outcomes? Is a child threatening to end their life? Teen pregnancy, drug abuse. Out of all of those like negative outcomes, all of the studies for decades now, I think, show that in a two-parent home, those outcomes are minimal. Like, children are doing well best in a two-parent household. Below that, if they're raised by a single dad, it's a little bit worse than a two-parent household. And then way below that, the worst outcomes is children who are raised in a single mother household. Mm-hmm. And I never knew that, and I'd never heard about that. Only until like a year ago, maybe, is when I heard about that, which is shocking. Isn't that weird to think about? Like, of all the single mothers in the world, we would think that's normal, but to hear that scientifically it's a suboptimal outcome for kids.
Exactly. It is a shock to finally hear it, but I'm not shocked about the information. And I really kind of like when I started reading these types of articles, because there's a couple of them out there. One of them you just mentioned. And when I started reading these, and there's more and more studies, and the way they decipher it just a little bit differently, but all somewhat similar, is basically the children came out overall, there was a better outcome in their life and as full-grown adults by being raised by a single father home, and just as equal to having two parents in the home. Sometimes, in some cases, better. And the cases that I remember, I got to get that page. Remember that page. It was a study out of the East Coast somewhere, and where it was better than a two-parent household was in academics. And that's where I thought to myself, oh, Father X, you should share. Your son's doing amazing right now. I think this study, you're a proof of that study. And it was in academics. I want to share that. I'll get back to you maybe off the video, but I'll share that with you. I read that before. And it was just recently, in the past few days.
Yeah, I remember when I was taking my son to kindergarten, first grade, and second grade, and
Mm-hmm.
a lot of parents were single parents because that's normal now.
Yeah.
I remember many women in that time talking about the concept that raising a child is really hard as a single parent,
Mm-hmm.
and that was a common thing that I heard. And some people would ask me, like, isn't it hard to be a single dad? And my reaction was always like, hard? I don't know. Hard? Difficult? That's not even a question. It's like, you just have to do things.
Yeah.
Right? You have to wake up in the morning and make breakfast, and you have to make sure your kid gets dressed, and you take them to school, and you go to work, and you have to run away from the office, at 3 o'clock to go pick up the kid from school, or you have a babysitter.
Mm-hmm.
It's just to me, it was always, these are things that I have to do. That's part of living. It's not difficult or easy. That's the wrong question. It's like, these are all things that I want to do and have to do, and you just do them.
You just do them. And what I love about that when it comes to single fathers is we don't, I'm not trying to, for mothers that may be watching this later on, we're not trying to separate the two. We're just trying to share our joys and our love of being fathers, because it does exist, and we feel as though it isn't exposed or talked about as much. But one of the things that we love about that is about being a dad and having those wonderful responsibilities that are not stressful is that we don't need to parade it around as though it's a badge of honor. Look at me, and I'm so proud of being a single father. That's probably why you don't see so much information on social media being spewed out there about, oh, he was a single dad, he was a single, because there's no need for rewarding me for that. I went into this situation accepting my fatherhood and loving it and enjoying it, and no matter if it hurts my back or it's sweat or blood on my hands, it's who I am, and that's my life, and I accept it. Do you have a great story, Rocky? Mm-hmm. Do you have a good story about your daughter that you want to share, like some of the fun things that you did, or something, one of the best memories? I'll tell you one of mine. Oh, please, yes. Yeah, please.
You go first.
Okay, so thank you for bringing that up. I think so. When I was running my business, she was really kind of like my inspiration of like really growing the business to the next level. And I did a huge investment. That investment turned around really fast within 4 months, and I was just like, okay, we're going in the right direction. And she was with me. So her mom was married to her career. That's fine. We're separated now. I wish her peace. But her mom was never at home. Her mom was never there. I was there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And her mom was always at work or somewhere gone. And so she was with me, and I was doing my events, and my events typically would last Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. And I had her with me constantly. Like, mom was too busy. She couldn't take her. I was like, you got to take her, or I take her. I'm busy. No, I was like, she was with me at my appointments when we signed the contracts. She was in the crib in the carrier, underneath the table between my legs while I was doing the contracting, doing the business. She was with me everywhere I went, constantly. In the end of the night, when we had a couple employees just cleaning out the entire hotel space or closing out the events, I'd take her out of the big U-Haul truck that I had with the equipment in there. I had my guys loading in and out, and she was right there in the U-Haul truck, right in the center, dead asleep, fed and cleaned, diaper changed, napping while daddy was working. And I'd carry her into the location with me, and she was dead asleep the whole time. And there I was, just loading in speakers and lighting systems and cleaning out the event space. And there she was, just dead asleep. She had no idea. It was, can you imagine like sweating and hurting and like just working late hours, 3, 4, 5 in the morning, and you have your why, your reason why, right there in your hands, looking at them every time. It didn't, that heavy hard work of the job did not bother me one bit. I loved it. Just look at her face. You know, when you look in your child's face when they're sleeping and they're at peace, doesn't it not just bring you peace and joy? Like, that's what it felt like every time when I was breaking my back and sweating. And then when she got older,
you know your kid is safe.
Yes,
your kid is safe and sound.
Exactly. When she got older, I gave her a job, and that was basically just turning on all the switches to the equipment. And I paid her $200 for doing that.
Wow.
Yeah. So
wow,
she was,
that's salary inflation.
yes, she was like 4 or 5 years old, getting $200 an hour. So she was making out pretty good for a 4 or 5 year old, and that was her first job.
Yeah, I appreciate that because when my son was on school breaks, days off of school, I still had to work, and so I would bring him to the office with me, and he would sit in my office all day long doing homework or playing on the iPad. But he was in all my meetings, one after the other, meetings all day long. And I think he learned a lot in life by being in my meeting.
Oh, that's awesome.
Here's a great story. One of my favorites, when he was, I guess, 6 months old, maybe. And I was in the living room, sitting on the sofa, and he was sitting on my lap, a 6-month-old baby, and I was on the phone with a friend of mine, and I was wearing a T-shirt and sweatpants. And while I was on the phone call, he's just 6 months old. He's just kind of sitting on my lap. He pooped, an explosive poop. You know, the kind that comes off of your neck and it spreads everywhere.
They're gonna happen.
But I didn't recognize it. I didn't recognize it. I was still on the phone, and for a couple minutes, and I saw, he pooped on me, and I was like, I told my friend, hey, I gotta go. I'll talk to you later. Bye. And I looked up my son, and I realized there's all over my sweatpants and all over him. So I just pick him up, and I take him to his bedroom because I was going to clean him up. So I picked him up, I put him on the changing table, and I take his clothes off, and I take off his dirty diaper, and it was a big mess. And I was kind of dirty too because I had poop all over my clothes. So I was going to take him into the shower. I took my shirt off and pants off to get into the shower. I picked him up from the changing table. I held him to my chest, and then he vomited on my chest.
Oh, poor guy.
Now I've got tons of vomit on my chest, and he's got poop all over him. And I started laughing so hard. I was laughing so hard because even Muhammad Ali did not have a 1-2 combination like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Poor guy. He wasn't feeling good at all. Poor thing.
Yeah. And then we just went in the shower and, I cleaned him off, and it was awesome. Like when that stuff happens and then you're just laughing about it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's good time.
Yeah, it is. And that's parenting, and that's the joy, and then that's the joy. That's the joy of it. And I think, like, there's no exact book on being the perfect parent, right? We can read and gather information from maybe loved ones or books and stuff, and there's no perfect way to do it, and we make it our way. But you can make the best perfect way that you can possibly do by loving and understanding, and that is most important. And we begin to lose that way, that perfect way that we could possibly carve a path in for ourselves and for our children, by losing the love that we have for ourselves and nurturing ourselves first, and then also trying to understand our wrongs and our rights, trying to understand our peace and our joy. And going and talking about having that perfect book of being a parent, there's no perfect book to divorcing. We don't know the way, but there's so many things set in stone for for women, to help them and assist them. And again, I stress throughout this, it's not a man against women or women against man thing. But there is so much more assistance and help out there and resources for women and mothers in when it comes to the divorce process on the other side, and there's nothing for men. And so thank you for shining some light on how to do this all. Do you I think you shared, and please share with the audience about I think you found one, or was it two, actual domestic violence homes for men in the United States. I never even knew there was one that exists, and you found one in my old state of Georgia, where I used to live. Oops, my opponent. Yeah.
Yeah, they're trying. I know some guys that are trying to build one in Georgia. I don't know how close to Atlanta it is, or it's going to be, but they're trying to build it. They need fund. They're looking for funding. They're doing some fundraising called Daddy's Home.
That's awesome.
Or Daddy's House. I forget which one.
Yeah.
But it's sponsored by the Veterans for Fathers organization. And awesome. You're right. There are no domestic shelters for men. You know, actually, I don't know if you know this, Rocky, but when my ex and I lived together and she assaulted me the first time, you know, the police were not called. I didn't know that was the thing to do. It was the first time I'd ever been assaulted in my house.
Yeah.
The second time I was assaulted, my son was like 3 months old, and I had enough. And I was like, no, this is not acceptable. I called the police. I was the one who called 911. They came to our house, and I met them out front. They spoke to me for 2 minutes. They come inside, and they talked to her for 10 minutes. I don't know what they talked to her about, but I told them that she assaulted me, and I called 911. They came out, and they said, you know what? It doesn't matter what you say. We only believe what the woman says, and we can just have you arrested based on what she said alone. And I had no idea what she could have told them because she was assaulting me, so I'm guessing she lied about it, but who knows? But that was my introduction to the police department.
Yeah.
You know, like, oh, thank you. It doesn't matter if I'm being victimized. You're just going to use gender discrimination. It's kind of the same thing as if you pass a law that says, okay, if there's a couple and one of them is, let's say, black and the other one is Mexican, we'll just always assume the black person must be guilty and the Mexican person must always be innocent, or vice versa.
Right.
It's like the same thing.
Right. It is. It is.
Straight up discrimination.
It is. It is discrimination. It's gender discrimination. However you want to look at it. And it's so much history and so many cases that this happens that we can't turn a blind eye to it. And these are the stories, your story, my story, and I've heard other stories as well too, where this needs to be spoken, this needs to be brought up front. And these are the type of things, that reason why we have these conversations, and why you guys should look out to the National Parents Organization and join them, join the Americans for Equal Shared Parenting Act. And this is why things need to be moved, and the needle needs to be moved forward. And instead of just talking about this, there needs to be one step forward every day, getting closer and closer to making some type of change or shaking some type of ground in your local state government, and so on and so forth. With that said, if you don't mind, if I can share my similar situation that happened, I came home from work, and we were already it was in heavy talks of divorce. We were already going to go that way. I knew it was going to divorce. I tried to salvage and save it. We were going to go on the divorce, but we were living together, and many guys actually still live with the spouse in just at the beginning stages of they're about to go into divorce. And these are the scariest times, because we are so vulnerable to incarceration at that time, you know, by simply a lie. I came home, and I take my shoes off and my t-shirt off. That day it was hot in Atlanta. I was living in Atlanta at the time. And I lay down on my stomach, and my daughter's in front of the TV playing with her Legos. I'm like, oh, how's your day? Kissed her, played with her, you know, wrestled with her. And then we're playing Legos. And next thing I hear like a kind of like almost like a little bit of a screeching, like a loud sound. And it did sound like my wife at the time. And then I just heard almost like her kind of crying. And I was like, I try not to talk to her, try to stay away from her. My lawyer said, just keep a distance from her. But eventually you're going to have to leave the house, Rocky. And then I turn around and I just hear, where's he at? Where's he at? And it's two men. I'm like, okay, it's time to get up. This is my house. And I hear two men. And I turn around and it's two police officers literally grabbing me off the floor. I'm playing in front of the TV with my daughter, playing with Legos. And they just, with no words, just physically grabbed me. And just did my natural response, like, what, what's going on? Kind of stiffen up, like, whoa, I want to resist, but what I'm resisting for what? I'm just laying down. I'm like, what am I resisting to? I want to like stiffen up a little bit, and they pull me up to the front door of my, which is just around the corner from the living room, down the hall, and they pull me up to the front of the door, and they say, you're gonna have to leave and get out, and they slam me on the floor, and I'm just like, and this was like you had your introduction to inequality.
Yeah.
And this is the legal system going to the front door and in our homes and telling fathers that we have no rights. And
was your daughter crying? How did your daughter react to that whole thing?
She was shocked, but she didn't see the actual slam. It was a little bit of a tussle in front of her. They pulled me around the corner and then pulled me down the hall, and then they slammed me on the floor. And these are two larger police officers. I'm in my socks and no t-shirt, and just my pants, my work pants on. And because I worked a part-time job as well too, to keep the insurance for both me and my daughter. And in my business, I didn't have insurance to that. And then so yeah, I just thinking about that.
Sorry you went through that.
And it's your story and my story, and there's many stories like this where.
Do you know why it happens?
Why? Please tell us why.
So if you remember, in the 1990s, Bill Clinton passed the Violence Against Women Act, which is basically this feminist ideology that is basically all around. If a woman says she's a victim of assault, everybody's supposed to believe her. You're supposed to have the entire community helping her out. And that act basically created a lot of federal funding to the cities and states to prosecute domestic violence and protect women, and they get funding. So if police officers arrest more women, arrest more men, right, or courts prosecute more men, or district attorneys prosecute more men, it's just more funding. And if they prosecute more men, then they can say, we have a bigger domestic violence problem here. We need shelters for women, and they can build shelters for women. It's all a big money game. But the law is all around protecting the woman, and they do trainings of police officers and district attorneys and family court judges, and all of the trainings are about how bad it is to commit domestic violence against women, and all of the examples in the trainings are about where women get beat up. Now, in reality, the CDC, the Centers for Disease Control, does studies around domestic violence. It's approximately 50-50 or 40-60 where men and women are victims of domestic violence. It's not 95% women and 5% men. It's actually close to 50-50. Yeah. But nobody talks about that because everybody just always thinks about the big, strong man beating up the woman and she has a black eye, which certainly happens. But everybody in the system, in the legal system, is trained to only think about domestic violence against women. They ignore domestic violence against men, and they ignore women lying about domestic violence.
That's why. It's a money game. Yeah.
It's a money game.
It definitely is.
And an ideology game also. There's just like this radical ideology that says we have to protect women, even if it means giving them the power to falsely arrest men. Exactly. And what's happening in society is, I can't tell you how many women comment on my channel and they say, my son is going through family court because his wife lied. Or my brother is going through family court because his wife lied.
Yes.
So when you protect a woman blindly who's lying, you're hurting other women that are related to that man. The grandmother, the sister, the aunt, cousins, and they all know that the woman is lying, right? So
thank you for bringing this up. Yes.
Yeah. But the legal system doesn't see that because they're myopic people, right? They're just not.
Exactly.
They shouldn't be in charge of anything.
That's so important to bring up, and there's so many different. And let's go over that again on the on our future talk, if you don't mind. Women, I feel like in many situations when it comes to the family separation, women are hurting themselves in the long run. They're hurting themselves. I think the 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 ideology of feminism that is kind of recently over the past several years plagued this country is going the wrong direction for women. I don't feel like it's really uplifting them too much. I feel like it's hurting them overall by saying, you know, they can do it on their own. You know, they can be independent. They can this and that. Where realistically, they have to now be the breadwinners, and they have to cover the insurance and life insurance, and they have to be the protectors of the home, and so on and so forth. And I feel as though it takes a family. It takes a several people, not just one. So doing it on your own is going to be really stressful. Obviously, you're going to be more stressed out, and obviously going to be more fall into depression and all those other statistics if you're just going to try to do everything on your own. You can, but the world is getting more difficult now, and we should stand together and, you know, and help each other out.
Even if the parents are separated, 50-50 custody is better, because then you're parenting for 7 days, and then the other person parents for 7 days, and you have time to breathe and rest and relax and focus on work or whatever.
Yeah.
So 50-50 shared parenting generally works better. In my case, though, because my son's mother, well, she was just insane. So without her in the picture, when I was a single dad and still am, my son's almost aged out. But going through everything that I went through with my son, to me personally, I found it a lot easier. That every time he was with me, I was responsible for 100% of the things. I couldn't ever turn to a spouse and say, hey, can you do this? Can you take this kid to school today? Can you take our kid and pick him up from school? Like, there was never any of that debate. Right. Because I just did everything. Right. And so to me, it made it easier because the buck stops here and there's no alternative. I just do everything. And it made it simpler. So that's the other side of the equation, right? Yeah,
that's awesome. That's awesome. Your information is, I can't say, I don't, your information on your YouTube channel is amazing and continues to grow. And I wish I had found it before my separation or going through my divorce. And it's gold. It's priceless. I mean, if you guys are watching this later on, I can't stress enough, you have to go to Father X's YouTube channel, subscribe, listen in on to his videos. Give yourself some time, give yourself an hour or 2 hours, and really listen to the details. You're gonna get some real golden nuggets that can arm you and be prepared for walking into the courtroom, and that can help you win your case and be able to see your children. We're gonna go ahead and close.
And Rocky, what I did, by the way, Rocky, is when I was going through it, I didn't have resources to help me. I had a lawyer, but he got steamrolled in court. He was always ignored. Just like I was always ignored. Having a lawyer isn't the solution if they're just going to be ignored by a judge that's gender biased, right?
Right.
So when I realized that, I recognized that I had to pull off a miracle and get through my judge because she was the real enemy. So I spent a lot of time reading appellate case laws for my state on Google Scholar, reading articles about child psychology, preparing my testimony. I did almost all the work. My lawyer reviewed some of the stuff. I gave him a script of all the questions he was supposed to ask me for 28 hours. I gave him the scripts of what to ask the witnesses. He was just a partner and like did some editing.
That's awesome.
But it was like mostly me. And so, when the whole case ended, we had to do closing arguments. And when I wrote the closing arguments, it was in writing, and I wrote it, not my lawyer. And I wrote like 85 pages of closing arguments. proving I was the better parent.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I did in my video series on YouTube is thinking about step by step what I wish I knew way back then that I had to learn as I went along, because now it's all in my head. And I don't want to die with it in my head, right? I want to share it, because ultimately, it's like playing Monopoly or Parcheesi, right? If you don't know the rules, everybody else is going to steamroll you.
Yep.
So I'm teaching everybody what they need to know to get through court. And everybody complains, oh, family court, they're biased. And I say, yes, they are. So the fact that you recognize that they're biased doesn't mean that you stop there. The real question is, how do you get on the other side of that? How do you strategize and outmaneuver that judge to nullify their gender bias? Because if you don't do that, you lose.
Yeah.
Right? So, and if you're upset and angry and you're home and you're depressed and you're frustrated and you're angry,
it's not going to help.
You should be. And I don't think you can actually avoid it. And I found it to be a waste of time to try to fight those feelings, because they were normal feelings. But just because you're angry or frustrated doesn't mean that you stop, curl up into the fetal position and stop. You still have to get custody of your son or daughter, 50-50 or primary custody, if that's the best thing for them. So regardless of those emotions, you still have to get to the other side. And so what I try to focus on is accept those emotions and get to the other side. And this is how you study. And this is how you prepare. And I'm giving you a path to prepare. Like I wish I had a path that's going to get you to victory, instead of the normal path, which is where the courts rubber stamp the mother for custody, and you can go get lost because nobody cares about you.
Right.
So I teach everybody that family court is incompetent and biased, but that's just step one. You gotta figure out how to get past it. And I teach you how to get past it.
That's awesome. I appreciate you so much. That's awesome. We got to. We're going to go ahead and close this off right now, but we're going to do this again very soon, probably tomorrow. And we'll be posting a little bit more about this in my shorts, and also a community. And that way we can gather some more information. And most of you guys haven't been on here for a while, but I think others will eventually listen on in. Father X, thank you so much for sharing this information with us. And I'm gonna bring a few other questions next time, and we'll touch a couple different topics. But can you please tell us your YouTube channel again, and share any information that you want to share so these guys know where to go after this video?
Yeah, the channel is youtube.com/@FatherX2022. 2022 is the year I started making my videos, at the very end of 2022. So you can just search FatherX 2022. I'm not on any other social media right now, only on YouTube. I'm looking to expand, but I'm just trying to get the content on YouTube, because it's a great platform for 15-minute videos.
There you go. Awesome. Yeah, you can't miss the logo. It's a big blue logo with a big X. Father X, thank you again. And we'll be doing this video again, guys. Thanks for stopping in. While you're watching this live posts up later. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave the questions on this comment below, and I'll go ahead and answer, or we can answer the questions later as your comments come through. And or go to Father X's channel, and you can follow him, subscribe, hit the bell notification when he does his live or his posts. And you can also ask him questions there as well too, and contact him there. Thank you again, Father X, and we'll talk again. We'll do this again. I think this is definitely needs more time, more video, more communication, and we need to push this out further and further along. And I definitely will as well too on my social media, guys. If you don't know, I have other social media as well too, and I'll put in the description there below along with Father X's. Take care, guys. We'll see you again, and talk to you again soon. Take care. And just gonna close